Today we're going to talk about exponents that are on negative bases. This is probably one of the most confusing things for students to understand. And what I mean by that is this: the difference between negative or a minus of 5 squared versus a negative 5 squared. And I want to emphasize the difference is basically the parentheses and order of operations. By order of operations, if you remember PEMDAS, exponents come before addition and subtraction. If there's no parentheses, we consider this a subtraction symbol, which we would do after we square it. So in other words, we'd have a negative 5 times 5 for this expression, which would be a negative 25. Where this one, because of the parentheses come before exponents, that actually means a negative 5 times another negative 5, which would become positive 25. So do you see how if the negative is not in parentheses, we don't do the negative, we leave it in front of the 5 squared. We do the 5 squared without the negative. A lot of students look at this and instantly think, oh, that's a positive 25 because it's a negative times a negative. Well, it's not. Another way to think about it, and I like to do it with a 3, I like to do this. If I was to go 10 minus 3 squared, by order of operations, we do the exponent before we do subtraction. So we go 10 minus 9, because 3 squared is 9, and 10 minus 9 is 1. Well, there's no reason I couldn't do a very similar equation where I do 0 minus 3 squared. And again, I got to do the exponent before I do the minus. So that'd be 0 minus 9, because 3 squared is 9. And what's 0 minus 9? Well, it's negative 9. Now, the point of this is do I really need to write the 0? I don't. I can cover up those zeros and just think of it as, oh, it's minus 3 squared, which is a minus 9. You do not square the negative if it's not in parentheses. So that is actually all there is to today's lesson, is the difference between giving a negative 7 squared, and I still keep saying negative, but I should say minus a 7 squared versus a negative 7 in parentheses squared. This one here is going to be a negative 49 because the negative is after we square it. This one here, the negative is before we square it, so negative 7 times negative 7 is positive 49. One last thing is don't confuse higher exponents. If I give you a negative 3 to the 4th power, right, and a minus 3 to the 4th power, again, here I have 4 negative 3's. That's going to be positive 81. Or in a sense, I could have taken the time to go negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3, which 4 negatives make a positive, and 3 times 3 is 9, times 3 is 27, times 3 is 81. Or this one, it's going to be a negative 81, and that's because I have a negative 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. In other words, I do the multiplication of 3 4 times, and then I tack on the negative, and that gives me the 81 that's negative, or negative 81. So watch your signs when it comes to bases, whether the sign is in parentheses or whether it's not.